Alright, time to feed these hungry gamers. Give them something to talk about. Well, let's see. Game Pass was created so Microsoft can maintain their competitive edge. That's my take on it. My take on it. Oh, by the way, hello viewers. Another beautiful day. Yep. Hope your five senses work. Health and strength is good or excellent. But look, got this article here from Tweaktown. What's up, Tweaktown? Says here, Xbox president explained why Game Pass was created. In my own understanding, to me, Game Pass was created so Microsoft can maintain their competitive edge in the market. You know, presence and competitiveness. Listen to this. Says your Xbox president explained why Game Pass was created. Xbox gaming president Sarah Bond seems to say Game Pass was created to disrupt Microsoft game business before a competitor could do the same. It says here Microsoft gaming leadership explained why Game Pass was introduced and why the company chose to disrupt its own business model of game and software sales. It says here in 2017, Xbox changed the gaming industry by releasing Xbox Game Pass. It was the first multi-game subscription service allowing subscribers to pay a low monthly fee to access hundreds of games. Since then, both Nintendo and PlayStation have released their own variant with Nintendo's option for its virtual console replacement with the Switch Online. They should have stayed with the virtual console, like I've been saying. And Sony going with its 3-tier PlayStation Plus offering. Says here at Tweaktown, we talked in length about Game Pass and how the service has evolved the industry while also helping Microsoft shake up the fundamental market space. We've also discussed why we think Microsoft chose to do this, a potential Hail Mary move in the bid to introduce a new subscription games segment to billion-dollar game market and get ahead of the competition while innovating with new monetization methods. But now we have somewhat of an answer from Microsoft themselves. Says here, in a recent interview with Bloomberg, Xbox president Sarah Bond had some interesting things to say about Game Pass. In the article, Bond indicated that Microsoft chose to disrupt its own business model on its own terms rather than having competitors like Nintendo and Sony do it first. Anyway, says here, if we don't do it, someone else is going to. Bond told Bloomberg, referring to Microsoft taking the risk of undermining its traditional business plan. There's a difference between managing a network effect and maximizing the value of a single game. Bond continues referring to how Game Pass has potentially compounding positive effects because of pool values of game across the service, which can grow over time versus the implied set lifetime value of given product in a retail environment. It says, and indeed this has been true for Microsoft. Game Pass is a billion-dollar subscription service where users do not actually own content but lease it for a period of time. It's said to be a profitable venture and it helped grow Microsoft game business. Microsoft hoped that Game Pass could achieve $8 billion in revenue by 2030, driven in part by cloud expansion. And then it says, then it shows the Xbox Game Pass subscriber forecast, PC, cloud, and console, and it shows from quarter 2020 to quarter 2022. Then it says here, while there are undermining effects, that is cannibalization, or the effects when users choose to subscribe to Game Pass versus buying a game overall, Game Pass is seen as a positive for Microsoft, which is only rightly so, considering the trillion-dollar tech giant is a service-first company. And then it shows the tiers of Game Pass. We don't have Xbox Live anymore. We have Game Pass. We have the Core, Standard, we have the PC, and then we have Ultimate. So, from me looking at this diagram here, to take full advantage of Game Pass, it's best you pay the $19.99 a month. Buy the entire thing. So, $19.99 a month. So that's like, let's see, what, $20 a month, so 5 months is $100. Another 5 months is $100, so about $240. That's a good deal. Anyway, says here at 34 billion subscribers as of February 2024, the sky seems to be the limit for Game Pass expansion, but Microsoft did just make the unpopular decision to rise prices across the subscription plan. It says there's a limited update on data and optics for Game Pass as a whole, so it's hard to say where the company so it's hard to say where the company as it's right now. It should have been as it is right now. But it says, but the recent Bloomberg article did reinforce that Xbox has challenging revenues and profit targets to meet. Following the $70 billion buyout of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft Board of Directors, CFO Amy Hood, and CEO Satya Nadella are closely watching Xbox, but Phil Spencer said Xbox is growing and profitable business. And that is the end of that. Look, here's the deal. Microsoft beat everybody to it first. You know, Microsoft created Game Pass to maintain their competitive edge in the market. And Microsoft beat everybody to it first. One, with the title Game Pass. I've said the entire world runs on Windows. The entire video game industry runs through Microsoft. And I told you it's a Game Pass world and we're just living in it. And I told you whoever has the title Game Pass runs the video game industry. And Microsoft beat everybody to it first when they bought ZeniMax Bethesda for about $7.5 billion. Right? But then they raised the bar even more high now when Activision Blizzard became available, because there was Bobby Kotick was trying to sell Activision Blizzard to Facebook, and Facebook is a face of social media, period. It's not Twitter. So Facebook wasn't interested because Facebook is like a military industrial complex kind of business. There's different parts to it. So Microsoft caught wind of this and they rushed it. They didn't even hesitate. They knew when they bought ZeniMax Bethesda, they needed something else. So there was an article with Sean Layden, and he was sitting there playing chess, talking about Game Pass is not sustainable. And as soon as he said that, Microsoft knew they needed something else. So the moment Activision Blizzard popped up on the radar, and then Phil Spencer made the statement about Sony and Nintendo is not our competitors, it means that he looked down the road and saw who the competitors were. And soon as Activision Blizzard they caught wind of the sale that was about to happen between Facebook and Activision, and Facebook passed upon it. If you remember the Wired magazine years ago, where Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg was on the front cover, that should give you a clue how Microsoft and Facebook think, how they think industry-wise. And as soon as Activision Blizzard popped up and Facebook passed on it, and Microsoft, knowing they got Game Pass and they know it's a subscription service, and they know that they need games for that subscription service to maintain it, they didn't hesitate. They jumped right at it and just snatched it up before the competitors could even make a move. So when it comes to this subscription service, Sony and Nintendo was dragging their feet on it, playing around with it and thinking it was a game or it was a joke. Microsoft was all business. Like Phil Spencer said in the article a couple weeks ago, we run a business. So they were all business, and Sony, Nintendo sitting there dragging their feet, and Microsoft like, okay, you know what? Let us be the first. Like, okay, let us be the first to create a subscription service for video games, and they beat everybody to it, and they got the title to go with it. So Microsoft, in other words, built Game Pass so they can maintain their competitive edge in the video game market, you know. instead of sitting there watching Sony and Nintendo doing this and doing that, Microsoft is like, okay, we're going to disrupt our business model, but it's going to work. We're going to come up with this title, Game Pass, but we need some games to maintain it. And they did just that. So Game Pass as a whole is growing. It's growing. It's growing. You know, and it keeps what Game Pass does. It keeps Microsoft active. It keeps them active within the game industry, and it keeps them on their toes. It keeps them occupied. It keeps them busy, and it helps them maintain their their competitiveness in video games. You know, so Game Pass is not a failure by any means. It's not even close, because once they bought Activision Blizzard, that sealed it. So and then we're talking Activision with Call of Duty and then Warzone. Good thing they jumped on. Good thing Activision had the insight when they saw Fortnite doing the Battle Royale. They jumped on it right away and split Call of Duty in two. So now they got two games coming at you. But then with Blizzard now, Blizzard has StarCraft, World of Warcraft, Diablo, who else? and a whole slew of others. You know, so Microsoft purchasing Activision Blizzard was a good move, and it keeps Game Pass solidified in the game industry. So you will always hear of Game Pass in the years to come, in the months and days and weeks and years to come. So it was all about staying competitive, you know. It was all about really staying competitive in the market, you know, because I mean Sony and Nintendo are already in the game industry, and Microsoft came in right after after Sega. So instead of walking with their heads down, so to speak, they had to find a way to stay competitive in the market. And the answer was Game Pass. So Game Pass is everywhere now. So yeah, you can find it anywhere. So they had to do that, you know, to gain some momentum and gain some life in the game industry. So if they, it's like sometimes when you get your opportunities, you got to seize it. So and that's what they did, you know. So Game Pass is good. Now with Game Pass, now the only issue I had with them, to me, I would have never I can understand they put Minecraft on PlayStation, but games like Ori and Sea of Thieves, or even Indiana Jones, I wouldn't even put that on the competitor's platform. You know, I wouldn't, because you're trying to keep your momentum going, but it looks like it's working though by what they're doing. But Game Pass, man, it's everywhere now. So I mean, it's on. I mean, even Nvidia GeForce now is letting you connect your Game Pass account, because they're trying to compete with Game Pass, man. So if you're using a portable PC, you can get Game Pass anywhere. If you're on a desktop, a laptop, it's everywhere. So that was a good move on Microsoft's part, by seizing the opportunity when they seen it. They knew that Sony had a whole bunch of games, so it was only a matter of time before they turned their catalog of games into a subscription service. They knew Nintendo was in the game industry longer than Sony. I mean, Nintendo was in the game industry longer than Sony, but still they got a huge catalog of games. And they're sitting there playing around with it, trying to figure out what to do. And Microsoft is like this, just like how great whites jump out of water, snatched it. They got the title, and it's gonna be very hard to compete with that title, to compete against the name Game Pass. So yeah, to me, the video game industry runs through Microsoft because of Game Pass. Once they came up with that title, man, and once they made the moves that they did to really make sure that Game Pass is a pillar in the game industry, yeah, it's done. So yeah, I mean, there were other deals out there that they could have gotten too while they were at it. For instance, like the AT&T deal, when AT&T was trying to sell NetherRealm Studios and Rocksteady, and who was that? Let's see, NetherRealm Studios, Rocksteady, and who's the other one here? NetherRealm Studios, Rocksteady, and WB Games. They were on the table for like $5 billion when the Activision court situation was happening. So they could have snatched that up too. So Microsoft seized the opportunity before everybody else did. You know, when everybody else was sitting there dragging their feet, they jumped at it first. Nintendo had a head start, but here's where Nintendo screwed up. When it comes to subscription service, Nintendo had the Wii U virtual console to deal with, and the biggest problem with the Wii U was never sales. It was never sales. So when you see people on YouTube come out using those fancy words and try to fool you, it was never sales-wise with the Wii U. The biggest problem with the Wii U was the 3DS, because Nintendo had the virtual console, and all they had to do was move the 3DS out the way. They don't need it anymore, and focus. They don't need it anymore. Focus on the virtual console and just focus on the Wii U, and just keep adding games to the Wii U's virtual console so you can play them on the Wii U, and bring in all the updates. That was the problem they were facing. All they had to do was give one little thing up. Was the 3DS. The reason why the Switch is so-called successful, why they're having success with the Switch, is because it's one format. It's not two. With the Wii U, you had two formats. You had the Wii U and the 3DS, CD, cartridge, and then you got the virtual console to deal with. With the Switch, you just have one format. It's just cartridge, and you got the Switch eShop. So the biggest problem with the Wii U was never sales. It was just the 3DS was in the way. And Nintendo should have been, when they had the Wii U, when they put that fake story out there saying, oh, it was sales and it was marketing, and that stuff was fake. All they had to do was focus on the virtual console and the Wii U and take every single game that they had from all the handhelds and from all their console and put it in the virtual console, so you can play it on the Wii. So you can play it on the Wii U, and that's all they had to do. And then add the extra updates, and that was it. So, Microsoft, when Nintendo was sitting there dragging their feet about a subscription service, Microsoft jumped out the water like a great white and seized it and never looked back. Sony was the same thing. They were sitting there dragging their feet about it, not taking the video game industry seriously. But Microsoft with Game Pass really send a message to them like, uh-oh, the landscape is changing. It's like, okay, they did who? First ZeniMax, Bethesda, now Activision Blizzard. So now it gave them a wake-up call now that they have to stay competitive. So Microsoft just beat everybody. Microsoft, they're just sharper and more quicker when it comes to tech stuff, man, and they jump at it, man, and yeah. Even though Nvidia did get on the AI train quick, but Microsoft followed suit. But yeah, they're quick, man. So in this video game industry, you just have to be quick. So yeah, they're just sharp, man. And Game Pass is working, man. So all Microsoft got to do now is just focus on game development and stop closing studios down so quick. Yeah, Microsoft, I'm talking to you. Yeah, Phil Spencer, I'm talking to you. You're not exempt. Stop shutting down game studios and focus on game development and get games made, because you're gonna need games for Game Pass, man. And yeah. But other than that, man, they're good. They're good, man. So they just beat everybody to it, man. They were moving. They were moving. You know, I mean, 7.5 billion was one thing. I think I woke up. I remember when the news broke. I think it was RGT that broke the news. Yeah, he was the first to do it. Because when I woke up, I was looking through YouTube to go, and I'm like, they did what? 7.5, and I still feel the effects of that till this day. But then they even went higher now, like they were flexing. 68.7 billion. Done. So they jumped at it, man. They weren't playing around, man. They weren't playing. I would say Microsoft wasn't playing conservative when it comes to video games, man. They weren't. They were just quick. You know, they had to move. They had to find a way to gain some momentum to stay competitive, man, and that's where Game Pass comes in. So yeah. but Game Pass is good though, you know, and it keeps them active right now. It gives them life, energy. They keeps them moving. So they're good right now. So yeah. Now they just got to focus on getting their games made and bring out StarCraft 3. Yeah, Microsoft, I'm talking to you. So yeah, but other than that, man, they're good, man. You know, it kind of, you know what too? I seen an article today too about Tencent thinking about purchasing Ubisoft, but then during the Activision court deal, when they were talking about Call of Duty and how it was going to be distributed, but then Ubisoft was they were using Ubisoft as a to distribute Call of Duty. I thought Microsoft should have purchased Ubisoft then. So yeah. But the UK and the FTC was like, you gotta wait. What they say? You gotta wait like 10 years, 12 years to like do it. But I thought they should have done it. But yeah. But other than that, man, they're good, man. Their Windows operating system is doing good. Windows 10 and 11. Yeah. They're sharp, man. They're up to date, man. But to get the best out of Game Pass, though, instead of it's best that you buy the entire thing, the yearly subscription, and that way it will, once you let's say 5 months is $100, another 5 months is $100, so that's 200, and then you got 2 extra months, so the 200 represents 10 months, but then the extra 2 now is like for November and December, so about 240. So to get the full benefits of Game Pass, you got to just buy the entire thing. So when you pay for the entire year, you don't have to worry about renewing your subscription service for an entire year. But when it gets close, like for your yearly subscription is up, that's when you renew it. But then if you buy the year and then you come up on some extra money to buy another yearly subscription, do it. You know, so yeah. But yeah, they're good, man. They just got to stay. You know, to me, I think Game Pass give them the motivation, you know, to stay. I would say interested in the game industry, and it also push them now to get games made. So yeah, that's all they have to do now is get their games made and stay on top of what they're doing. But they're good right now. You know, they're good. So yeah. But they just jumped at it when Sony and Nintendo was dragging their feet, man. They just jumped at it, you know. When Sony and Nintendo sitting there dragging their feet about subscription service in video games, Microsoft is like, okay, we're gonna be the first to do it, and they did, man. So yeah. But other than that, man, they're good right now. Game Pass, you know, Game Pass was needed to keep the game industry active and moving. You know, you needed something to like, because to me, even though the game, I mean, Sony and Nintendo were getting their exclusive, it's like the game industry was like kind of like dragging a little bit. But once Microsoft came and disrupted it a little bit, the game industry is active, you know, and it's moving now, and it's growing like profit wise too. So yeah, it's good for the industry, man. And that was a good move on their part. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this video for y'all to enjoy though. Nice talking to you people again. Chris, still a Star Wars and Star Trek thing for Dark Side. Go. Peace.